I don't want to say the gold standard, but we are always investigating with the objective of laying charges.
Are you investigating what went on at the SDTC? Because a couple of months ago, the RCMP offered one answer, and then it seems as though lately there is an investigation. Are you investigating?
So I can confirm that we are investigating. And we're going, we did receive the motion that was put forth in the House of Commons. We did receive a USB key that we have stored for the moment.
Alrighty, the cat is officially out of the bag. The RCMP commissioner goes on to CTV and talks one-on-one with Vashi and talks about the Indian diplomats that got expelled or they got recalled. And he also tells the truth about Justin Trudeau and the involvement with, you know, India, foreign interference, and just kind of everything that is going on. But before we get into that, I do want to remind you guys that if you haven't yet signed the petition, you can find it linked down below in the description or the pinned comment below to stop the House Speaker from muting the mic. You can literally go to stopmutingthemic.ca. You'll be greeted with this awesome website. You can, at the top here, sign now, or you can scroll to the middle of the page, sign the petition here. Once you click on it, it brings you to the official government website. Man, this took so long to put together, but I'm glad I finally did it. You know, E5170 is a petition, talks about how it's discrimination for the House Speaker for muting the microphone against the visually impaired. Currently just sitting under 7,000 signatures. We've already hit top 100 petitions in Canadian history, which is absolutely phenomenal. Let's keep it going. Make sure you share it out with your friends, your family, Facebook, Reddit groups, whatever it is that you want to do. And then also make sure you go and you put some pressure on other content creators in this space to get them to not only sign the petition, but talk about the petition, because this isn't a me petition. This isn't a Mr. Sunshine Baby or House of Canada petition. This is a petition for Canadians, for Greg Fergus to stop muting the mic. Now, let's take a look at what this RCMP commissioner has to say in regards to the India threat.
Studio, thank you for making the time.
Thanks for having me, Vashi.
I'll start off just where that introduction left off on the announcement or the press conference that you held on Thanksgiving Monday. In that press conference, you explained that the reason you were making these details public when that's not a sort of normal course of business for the RCMP is because of the threat to public safety. Now that these 6 diplomats are out of Canada, has that threat been reduced in your estimation?
Yes, I can confirm from different techniques that we use in normal investigation and reach out from the committee. I can confirm that there's been a significant reduction in the threats.
And how do you qualify significant?
Well, you look at some of the key players, and I said it in my statement on Thanksgiving Day. I did say how you had diplomats as well as consular officials that were involved working on behalf of the government of India, on top of agents as well. So you look at the government of Canada expelling these 6 people have had an impact on what we're seeing in the South Asian communities.
Is the threat eliminated because of their expulsion?
I can't say that the threat would be forever eliminated, because like any organized crime group or in the criminal space,
so it's not forever eliminated, but right now it's eliminated. According to the RCMP commissioner, currently there is no threat, but it may come back at some point.
They reorganize and find a different way of doing things. And I will highlight the fact that this is not unique here, because you saw a week ago the U.S. indictment, which indicted government official who resides in India, as well as a well-known organized crime individual who is in India, who actually was orchestrated a contract on an American citizen. So what we saw here, we're seeing in other places as well.
So
I think that Canada, in terms of Indian interference, I think Canada really wants to investigate Jagmeet Singh. I've put a video out, or a couple videos out within the past week or two, that explains where even Jagmeet Singh has come out on older CTV power play videos, not with Vashi, but with the previous guy or one of the previous guys, where even Jagmeet Singh quite literally said that he supports the Khalistani separatists, which is what the individual from India who was labeled as a terrorist, how he was a Khalistani separatist, and then he got murdered right here in Canada. So it's just craziness, man. Like I think that none of this should have gone public. Kind of crazy, because I'm all about transparency, but not in the way that they've done it. At least it should have been done very, very differently. Maybe not completely hidden from the public, but the dirty laundry should not have been aired the way Justin Trudeau had done it. Like on Thanksgiving night, He did a nationwide emergency broadcast. Like that's almost an act of terrorism on itself. Justin Trudeau implemented pretty much, almost, maybe a bit of a stretch, an act of terrorism against Canadians by saying we have this threat and we're working on it. I don't know, kind of crazy.
Would you, if they were, for example, to be replaced, because my understanding is that has not, it's not being instructed that they can't be replaced, would you worry again about the threat to public safety based on what you know?
I think based on what I know, I would have a concern, but again, for the process for them to enter Canada, I'll leave that up to Global Affairs Canada, because I'm not really quite familiar as to what happens when someone comes into the country.
You spoke broadly about the threat that you, in your estimation, those agents of the government in India posed, and in particular, their links to the use of organized crime in very, very serious crimes across Canada. The Foreign Affairs Minister took it a step further and linked them specifically as persons of interest to the murder of Mr. Nijjar. Do you draw the same link?
Yeah, so I got to be careful with the fact that the Nijjar case is before the courts. And when we came out on Thanksgiving Day, it was really, and we've said this all along, there has always been a separate and distinct investigation on the involvement of government of India in criminality in Canada, and that's when we came out that was specific to that and nothing to do with the Nijjar case, which is before the courts.
So is it because it's before the courts that you can't comment on it? Or I'm just trying to ascertain, like, because you did comment on the other stuff. So is this, like, that stuff is also at certain instances before the courts, because you mentioned a number of homicides, a number of other investigations. Like, is none of that before the courts, and that's why you can say that?
But I didn't go into details on the others. So you have the Nijjar case that's before the courts, and the individuals are allowed a fair trial, and disclosures happen through the court process. The others, when we talked about other homicides, extortion, coercion, harassment, we've spoke broadly, but did not get into the details because there's still ongoing investigations.
So when it comes to the Nijjar case, because we did speak.
Of course they're linked, Fashy. Come on. He doesn't want to say it because he's not legally allowed to say it, but of course they're talking about the same freaking thing.
About this last time, the criminality that's already been exposed or alleged criminality was already being investigated. Are you still, as a force, investigating a potential link to the government of India?
So we have multiple investigations on the go, and we follow the lead and the evidence, and sometimes you never know where this might lead you to. So I'll leave it at that because we still have ongoing investigations.
So you can't say whether or not you're investigating links to the government of India in the Nijjar case?
Anything that pops up in the file would eventually lead us here, because when you start a file, you don't know where this file might lead you. Until you talk to a person or seize a phone or do some investigation techniques. It could, other files could lead us very well to the government of India, as other files may not.
But you can't be specific. I'm just trying to understand, because you did make this announcement, and a lot of Canadians are interested, right? And the government has gone so far as to be specific, despite the fact it's before the courts. But you cannot, or you just won't?
But I cannot, out of respect, and I'm not quite sure what Minister Joly said in public. So
well, she said exactly what I said. They're people of interest in the murder of Mr. Nijjar.
I would say, and I've said it quite openly in my comments on Thanksgiving, that we are investigating diplomats, consular officials that have direct ties through agents up to the government of India in different crimes, as I mentioned, homicide, coercion, harassment.
If you could also shed some light on, first of all, the decision to take these allegations and the warning to the public, and also the sort of timeline, because I know you have gone over it before, but I'll tell you why I'm asking. The expelled High Commissioner made a point of saying repeated times, despite many challenges, that no evidence has ever been shared with either your counterparts in law enforcement in India or the government's counterparts. Can you give me a blanket response to that, and then I'll ask you for some details?
Yeah, so Deputy Commissioner Flynn attempted on numerous occasions to reach out to his counterpart and is willing to go to India to discuss our file with them. We did not get a response from them. We've tried to reach out to the person at the High Commission in the United States who's responsible for the security side, law enforcement side. We actually went to Washington. We did not get a response. And knowing that the Deputy Minister of Global Affairs Canada and the NSIA were meeting with a representative from the Indian government, we thought that this would be apropos for our Deputy Commissioner to join them and walked them through what we had for evidence. So perhaps that the ambassador, not the ambassador, but the High Commissioner never saw the evidence, but it was shared with a government official of India.
So at that meeting, there was evidence, not just intelligence, but evidence shared with the government of India.
There was evidence to demonstrate how agents working for the government of India here in Canada, through the diplomatic process and official consular, how taskings were done, how information would flow back to the government of India, into organized crime groups, and then back into Canada.
And prior to that, you said that there were other attempts from the Deputy Commissioner in order to, was it to get across to his kind of like a law enforcement counterpart in India?
You're correct, actually, to his counterpart in India.
In none of those were successful. Like, you wouldn't even get a response. Is that accurate?
None of those were successful. Obtaining a visa was not successful. We've actually, the High Commissioner was critical that he never saw evidence, but we actually tried to lift immunity to sit down with them, to have a conversation or interview the people, and that was refused. And
in that conversation, should you have had it, would evidence have been shared?
Evidence would have been shared no differently than what was shared with the government official, with the NSIA and Mr. Morrison from GAC. And
just to be clear, because another point that the Indian government keeps putting forward is that, you know, that it's intelligence that exists, best case, not evidence. And you've made the distinction in different arenas before. Do you stand by the characterization that evidence of their link to these crimes exists?
Well, evidence, the evidence that we have was presented to the Prime Minister, was presented to our Minister, was presented to the Minister of Global Affairs Canada, and I would say that our evidence is strong enough that government took a position to expel 6 diplomats. Okay, and finally,
so who's lying here? Because India said that they recalled those 6 diplomats. And when you look at the timestamps, there's like a few hours difference where then Canada, after India recalled the diplomats, then Canada said, okay, we're expelling these 6 diplomats. I mean, it's just crazy. It's like when somebody's walking away and you're like, yeah, you better run, when they were already walking away. Like, it's just, it's crazy. It's craziness. Our government is literally in front of our eyes ruining a long existing relationship with the largest democracy in India. And I'm not going to defend India if they've been guilty and dead to rights accused of foreign interference. Like, obviously that's not okay. But again, like, the diplomats, they're not politicians, and they're supposed to be treated differently. It's bad. This is bad for airing the laundry like this. I don't agree with it. That's my opinion, though. I'd absolutely love to know yours.
A point of clarification, because there have been some, I guess, characterizations of the press conference, questions raised, I guess you could say, by the opposition, that it was, that you did that because the Prime Minister was going to testify a few days later or wanted to turn the page on other political issues. Was the decision to hold the press conference on Monday entirely of the RCMP's volition?
Yeah, it was. Actually, what's interesting, I'm not aware.
Baloney. I feel like his face is telling an absolute lie. The RCMP chose on Thanksgiving evening for the entire country. I think it was like 4 or 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, which would be the earliest for the entire country. So the latest would be like at 9, 10, or 11 p.m. or something like that. Like, that's craziness. That's almost an act of terror to on a nationally recognized holiday to drop that kind of news and present it in that kind of an emergency by the Prime Minister in conjunction with the RCMP Commissioner. Why not wait till the next day? Why not have done it a little bit earlier? Why wait till Thanksgiving Day, Thanksgiving night?
Where the Prime Minister's schedule all the time. I know when he leaves Canada, but as to his appearances and inquiries and whatnot, I don't really track that. But this has been planned for quite some time. The exact date as to when we're going to come out was not identified. It was only after the ill attempts to reach out to the government of India's official to discuss the matter, the meeting that took place in Singapore with the Deputy Minister of Global Affairs as well as the NSIA, that following that meeting there was an article in the Indian media that kind of misrepresented some of the things that were said. So one, we were concerned about disinformation, misinformation, but the underlying factor is not reaching the key objectives. We said it's time to go out immediately because there's still a serious threat to the population.
And that was not at the direction of the Prime Minister's
No,
office?
never once have we been directed by the government, and my last 7 years in key positions in the organization, never once. And this is a file which is interesting, Vashi, because we brought this to our minister and the Prime Minister and the Minister of Global Affairs Canada. We were generating and we were actually leading it, and then it was a coordinated approach.
You've been in policing for 35 years. This press conference, these allegations have made headlines around the world because they involve, agents of a government of a democratic country. Have you ever seen anything like this?
I've never seen this. It's actually a little surreal when you look at all this, but it's not unique to us. I go back to the indictments in the United States, where they picked up on the same thing, on the same, it's a modus operandi in the sense that you have government officials. The only difference is these people were in India, but you still had government officials and a key figure from organized crime that were involved in the tasking for this murder.
Just one final question on that. Have you ever, do you have a gut feeling, or have you figured out why, on the surface at least, they appear more willing to cooperate on the U.S. side setting up that committee? Now, there are frustrations with whether that committee is actually, doing what it should be doing, but they appear at least willing to offer some level of cooperation that they were unwilling on the Canadian side.
You're referring to the inquiry that they're having over there?
Yeah, they have like a committee that they set up to investigate the claims that are in that indictment.
So that would be a question better posed to, I believe, the NSA or Mr. Morrison from Global Affairs Canada, but I think that we wanted to go on that list, and we want to be part of this. We want to be a part of this to tell our story, but again, I don't think that was accepted by the Indian
More broadly
government.
on the issue of foreign interference, I wanted to ask you a question about Chinese foreign interference and a number of months ago, I think it was March of 2023, the RCMP confirmed that it was investigating the leak of classified information, that there was Chinese interference, the stuff that started getting reported by the Globe and Mail. Is that investigation still ongoing?
There's still ongoing investigation on the matter.
And nobody has been charged?
Not yet. You can understand, you got to appreciate the complexity of some of these files. It's just not one individual, but following, I'll give you an example, not necessarily particular in this case, but if there's a trail of money or information, who's involved, are these people all here, are these people on the international scene? So sometimes an investigation can be very complex.
Do you have any, and I take your point always that these are hard to predict, but it's been going on since March of 2023. Do you anticipate that there will be charges at some point?
There's, I don't want to say the gold standard, but we are always investigating with the objective of laying charges. But if a disruption like we did in this case with the government of India is satisfactory and meets the need, we can do that. But right now, we're still investigating.
And then I just want to ask you about one other issue that's been permeating through Parliament Hill. It's actually got Parliament Hill at a standstill. It's a decision an order by the House of Commons to ask the government to turn over
to criminally charge Justin Trudeau.
Sustainable Development Technology Canada, SDTC for short. It's basically like a green tech fund that the Auditor General said was completely mired in conflicts of interest. The docs, what's interesting here is the order then provides for the documents to go, unredacted documents, to go directly to the RCMP. The first question I have is, are you investigating what went on at the SDTC? Because a couple of months ago, the RCMP offered one answer, and then it seems as though lately there is an investigation. Are you investigating?
So I can confirm that we are investigating. And we're going, we did receive the motion that was put forth in the House of Commons. We did receive a USB key that we have stored for the moment. We're still going through available information that's out there to conduct investigation. And there are concerns. I've shared my concerns when it comes to
I've been trying to say this. I've been trying to say this on YouTube. I've been trying to say this on X, that the RCMP is indeed criminally investigating Justin Trudeau, because when they investigate, he just said it 2 minutes ago, when the RCMP at this level investigates, it's for pressing criminal charges. It's with the intent of charging or making arrests, that he just said it 2 minutes ago. And by confirming that the RCMP, right out of the RCMP commissioner's mouth, that they are indeed criminally investigating the SDTC scandal and Justin Trudeau's involvement, he is looking for ways. I'm not saying it's going to be successful, but the RCMP is actively looking for ways to arrest Justin Trudeau. We have right from the horse's mouth, sorry, bad habit, horse's mouth. I add one too many letters in there. We heard right from the horse, did it again, horse's mouth, that indeed he's going after Justin Trudeau. So let's just get that out of the way. Oh, that's phenomenal.
We're dealing with two different processes here. You're dealing with the legislative branch and the executive branch. And the concern that's been shared is the fact that we operate within a judicial process that's very strict. So if I need documents, I need grounds to go and get a search warrant to get those documents. And by going the other way, you're bringing documents that perhaps the police would never have any grounds to obtain these documents. So it's that balance. But what we're doing right now is we're going through everything that's publicly available, and then we'll assess what the next steps are.
What's a USB key? Like, what does that have to do?
Sorry, those little insert keys for the.
But like, what's that? What does that mean?
So
like,
that would.
I think she knew what it was.
So what we had requested to facilitate our work, it was to make sure that every document was identified if it's parliamentary privilege and how it was obtained, because you got to understand that there's different process where the Office of the Attorney General, when she's doing her work, she operates through a certain set of rules, but those rules might be different when you come into criminal, in criminal space. So you just can't take a document from her and bring it in. There's a process to do that. So the information was downloaded on a stick, on a USB stick, and we have it in our possession.
And have you haven't looked through it yet, though?
We haven't gotten to that. We're exhausting everything we can in the public domain first.
And that stick that you have, is it your impression that that contains information that you otherwise would have had to, obtain a warrant to obtain? Because there's still documents outstanding. That's why we're at paralysis, basically, right?
Yeah, there's still
documents. You're aware,
there's still documents out there, and again, I haven't seen what's on the stick. And I'll just comment to the fact that we're going to everything that's in the public domain. The ethics commissioner also has a report in which we're going through. If I go back to the Auditor General, she did not see any criminality in her review, and by her mandate is if she does see any criminality, she should stop her investigation and refer it to the RCMP, which hasn't happened. We're going through the.
So why are you investigating them if you weren't a few months ago?
Well, we did. There was a complaint, and if we receive a complaint, we're investigating. So. And
where did that complaint originate?
I'd have to go back. I'm not quite sure. I'd love to tell you. It's no secret, but I just don't have it with me.
Is it political in nature, or is it like?
I don't remember. So
what exactly are you investigating then?
We're investigating if there is any breach of trust in providing contracts. Was there any fraud? Was there any theft? So, and you got to appreciate that when we go into an investigation, we look at the different offenses, and we have to identify the key elements of an offense before we can even lay charge. And then, as I said earlier, if we go and get an information to obtain information, you need proper grounds to get that within the process that we operate, which is different from an administrative process or another process.
So just one final question, because there are still documents, unredacted documents, that the House contends has not been turned over by the government. If ultimately they do turn them over, I mean, the government's concern is that it's a breach of charter rights if it goes automatically, essentially, to the RCMP. If they do turn them over, what is the process? Will you take them and immediately look at them, or are you not immediately looking at them?
I'll go back to what I said earlier, Vashi, is we're going to go through everything that's public first and foremost, and then we'll have to sit down with the team and determine the next steps once we've exhausted everything that's in the public domain.
So it's not a hard no to looking at them, but it's not
it's not a hard no to looking at them. But there are concerns from the initial conversations I've had with some of the lead investigators. There is some concerns on the charter side on how we're obtaining the information without any grounds and whatnot. So.
Okay, I'm going to leave it on that note. I've taken a lot of your time.
Holy smokes, totes my goats. We heard right from the guy himself, his mouth, his words within 60 to 120 second time difference, that when they are criminally or when they investigate at this level, at the federal level, they are actively looking for the intent of making arrests and criminal charges. And that's what they are doing currently with Justin Trudeau. So it's not a nothing burger anymore. What Pierre Poilievre has done, this Hail Mary move, is probably one of the most slick and finesse things that has happened in Canadian politics. And so Justin Trudeau, I mean, he's got every reason to panic. His Liberal caucus is separated now. He's got people that support him and rebels that don't. And every day it seems like, more and more rebels are spawning, right? They're shifting away out of the support, and it's growing that rebel caucus. You've got the Bloc Québécois is potentially in 2 days from now going to call a vote of non-confidence, which obviously is going to be supported by, if they do that, the Bloc, the Conservatives, and the Rebels. And then you've got criminal investigation with the intent of criminally charging and arresting the Prime Minister of Canada. I mean, it doesn't get better than this. Obviously, an election and voting Trudeau out with a super duper extreme conservative majority with 339 seats, all conservative instead of 338, 339. We'll just add one in there. Me, sure, I'll put myself in there. I'll be the new House Speaker, right? But nonetheless, jokes aside, like, this is the best possible thing that could be happening right now. And I'm glad. I'm glad we went through this together. I've shared my opinion. I would love to know yours. I know there's a lot of people out there that are pessimistic about this stuff. They say, "Oh, this is nothing. This is nothing." Look, the RCMP commissioner, it very well could be nothing. It very well could turn in to absolutely nothing, a dead end. But the fact that they're admitting that they're going through the motions, they're going through the right steps, and with the intent of actually, nailing Trudeau dead to rights with criminal charges because of these criminal scandals, I think that's a really good win, because it adds more pressure to Justin Trudeau. It adds more validity to it. It's not just a grungy YouTube video or a grungy X post. The RCMP commissioner on CTV, right to Vash, said that that's what they're intending on doing. So anyone who supports Justin Trudeau at this point is, I mean, as they say down south, bless your heart. This is the end of the video, everybody. If you haven't yet already, I'd like to encourage you guys not only to smash the like button and subscribe, but also go sign the petition, link down below in the description or the pinned comment below. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.